This is what the camera sees up here on top of the tower. Of course, it's angled up at a little bit more than 45 degrees, but this is the reason that I had to build a tower to get above the tree line. Well, good morning everyone. Welcome back to the cabin. I hope everybody's had a great week. I can tell you up here at the Outpost, it's been very comfortable because we've had some extremely cool nights here recently, which actually makes it good for sleeping weather. I'm standing up here by the Smokehouse, and I basically kind of had to let it sit idle for a little bit because I had that problem with the corner of the cabin that actually appeared out of nowhere, where I had to work on that corner post from that rot that had happened. I will be getting some tin for the Smokehouse when I get done building the retaining wall, and I still have to burn it on the outside, but pretty much it's already done. Now, the other thing that I have to do is make the door for the front of the fire pit down there. But I really think that the Smokehouse turned out really cool. I think it's going to look a whole lot better once I get it burned. And I may not treat it because it's built pretty heavy duty, so I may just let it weather. But I do want to burn it to kind of give it the same look that everything else that I've built up here, and to help preserve it a little bit more. But yeah, I think it's really going to look good, and I'm looking forward to using it to smoke the meat when we harvest the pig this fall. So yeah, I think that it matches everything else that I've done up here. I will be adding a few features onto it later on, kind of like I did the chicken house, where I take some branches and kind of just mainly do it for looks, but add some on the corners and probably the opposite side over there. And who knows what else I may do. I may go ahead and add a crooked pipe out of the top, not really that I need it, but just to make it look more fairy-like, I guess you would say. But yeah, I had a question about the bracing on the door that I put there. That's called a compression brace. And basically what you want to do is you want to go from the opposite side of the top hinge over to the top corner and put your brace down to the bottom hinge. That way it stops the force of gravity where the door wants to sag, because it pushes on that bottom brace. So that is what's called a compression brace on the door. And then of course the latch is just just any old regular latch that I could put on there that would keep the door shut. But yeah, I think it really looks cool, and I think it's going to look a whole lot better when we get it burned. Another thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take my pipe apart since it's getting close to fall, because I will be building a fire probably around October sometime, which is only about 6 weeks away, 8 weeks away. Because last year I started actually burning wood at night in October. But I'm going to have to get that pipe cleaned out, because I don't want any debris that's built up in there that could catch fire and cause a house fire. So that's something that you need to do every fall, is clean out your chimney. I need to go all the way through and even take it off of the stove on the inside and clean all of that out and make sure that I don't have any buildup in there, like I said, that could catch fire. But that cooler weather is not, the really cooler weather is not very far away. And so I've started replenishing the wood pile. I have nearly 3 rows of oak already stacked in the woodshed. I need to get 3 more, because I actually went through 6 rows this past fall. Now, you do have to remember that the wood that I had in there was basically box elder. I did get a load of oak to finish out in the month of February into March last year from a friend who works with my brother-in-law. But the oak, since it's a lot more dense and it burns hotter, will last longer than that box elder. But he said that it wouldn't be long where he could get me another 3 loads, because I told him, I said, as long as I've got 6, I feel like I'm pretty good to go through winter. But this may be the last year that this woodshed that we use it, because when we build the new barn, where the sawmill is currently, we're going to turn that into the woodshed. But anyway, yeah, it's not far from being done. We're just about halfway full of this oak to last me through the winter. And once I get that, then I'll be satisfied that I've got enough to last. Went down to the base camp area, and you can see the dogs over there sniffing around, and brought up the benches that I had made for the base camp and that table that I had worked on. This was what, almost 3 years ago now, I guess, that I built that table. But I brought that up here so that I would have a place to cook out up here besides the kitchen, down here where I plan on spending a lot of time peeling some logs for that project of the retaining wall, because I've got to keep that water away from the cabin. So I've decided that this area down here is really where I'm going to set up to do most of the work for that project. Now, I had started, or I told my son that I was going to go ahead and start this multi-purpose barn. I was going to do it in sections, that way I could just add on to it later. But I wanted to build a section where I could actually park the new tractor under so that it didn't have to set out in the weather. So my plan was what I would do in order to finish the cabin, rocking it, because I wanted to do that also before winter time, is during the morning time when it was cooler, I would go ahead and lay some of the rock and let that harden, because the sun, you know, is not as hot as it was during the peak of summertime. That way it would have a good chance to dry. And as I walked down that wall, that's when I happened to spot that corner post. And when I removed the dirt away from the bottom, I could tell that it was rotted. So this project down here kind of got put off a little bit until I could get that fixed up there, because, you know, that basically trumped everything that I was doing. That water damage or what could occur in the future had to be taken care of before I could actually start this down here. But once I get that retaining wall in there, I've already got it ditched. When the excavator comes up here and we move all that dirt from the side of the cabin and get all of that ditched between the tiny house and the woodshed, and get all that rock pulled out and get some of this topsoil. I know it's hard to tell, but that is a hill of topsoil, but those are the weeds that have the seeds and everything that have blown over in there, and what was in it actually have, you know, grown. But once I can get that topsoil spread in there and get that side sloped away from the house, I should be pretty good, because the rest of the footer is a good 6 to 8 inches high up out of the ground. But anyway, this project, like I said, that I was going to do down here on the building the first part of the multi-purpose barn, I will start working on that, the foundation of it, once I get that retaining wall built. And that is another reason that I brought all that stuff up here from the base camp, was so that I would have a place that I could cook down here and not have to run back and forth, and basically just be able to enjoy myself while I was down here working on that project. So I guess the question remains whether or not we had decided when we built the building that we were going to face the roof line, to where if we decided to mount the solar panels on top, they would actually face south and get all of the sun as it comes up in the east and sets in the west. But since we're not going to be able to do that this year, not really sure if we're going to, in this area right here, actually build an array, which I was going to build another hugelkultur mound right here, or whether we just, like I said, use this section to build the array, where I could actually have power sooner than later, by going ahead and purchasing solar panels and just mounting this right here and not actually putting it on the new building, because I really don't have enough time to put the new building in and probably get it finished until next year, which I could continue to use the battery banks that I've got, because I've got a total of about 6,500 watts, and that lasts me actually all week, with still some to spare, because I've still got about 30% when I take the batteries and charge them up. Has great exposure to the southern sky, like I said, where it'd be able to capture the sunlight. Now it is about 9:30 in the morning. You can see the sun coming up right here over this big tall tree, but during the daytime it will capture it till about, now in the evening, in the wintertime, it would be about 3-4 o'clock right in there. So this area right here, like I said, would be able to capture the peak hours during the day for a solar array to be put in this location. Right down here I've actually got a couple of trees. These are cedar trees. This one's kind of hung up in the top, and then that one at the bottom that had fallen over the winter, I'll be able to take those and use those for that new retaining wall that I build behind the cabin. So with the logs that I've got here, the 2 that I just showed you, and I've got 4 more up there at the cabin that I've already pulled out, I may have enough to go ahead and finish that retaining wall, which I'm fixing to go get busy on that here pretty soon. Yeah, I think it's probably going to take about 4 logs right there in that center portion, and then I can taper down to a couple of logs at the corner here where I'm standing, and then also out there at that far end. So like I said, I may have enough to go ahead and do that once I get the hole set and get my posts put in. Now this area right here is where I'm going to remove all of the rock. This is beside the cabin, to be able to slope that away, and then the ditch is actually going to run behind that trailer up against where the bank is coming down between that woodshed and that tiny house, and ditch everything off that would actually come down the hill off into the woods. So this area right here will be actually grass that I'll have a little bit of yard that actually goes over to the little tiny house. And then I'll have a little bit of a front yard right here where the actual driveway kind of angles down towards the outhouse there. I'll have a little bit of grass right here. Then the other portion will be the side of the cabin right here, where I actually have grass here as well, going up to the root cellar and up by the smokehouse. I think on the back side of the cabin I may just put creek rock back there to fill that area in where it drains really well. Not really sure yet. Don't know that I really want grass back there. But anyway, I'll have 3 sides of the house pretty much covered with, and it's not going to be that much actually, so it'll probably take, you know what, an hour to mow it basically, and could probably do it with a push mower. But anyway, yeah, this is the area that I'm going to be landscaping for grass around the cabin. Well, thought I'd take a few minutes and talk about some of the comments that we've been getting. Had lots of comments on the tractor, and I'll tell you what, guys, I have no complaints. That tractor is actually a beast compared to the Kubota that I had, which was a really nice tractor. Don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting that Kubota any, because I actually built everything up here with it. But I had done things with that Kubota that you probably shouldn't do with tractors. I pushed its limits, and I was just afraid that it was, you know, it would begin showing wear at some point, and that, you know, it was just too lightweight for what I was really wanting to do up here. Of course, I had no idea I would do anything to the magnitude that I was doing, you know, because I actually bought the tractor before we started this channel. But as things went along, like I said before, it became apparent that it was just too small to do what I needed to do. But this tractor is built very heavy duty, and I don't foresee any problems that that tractor may have on the things that I want to do up here. So thank you for all of the nice comments that I've been getting on that tractor, and I'll tell you what, so far we've had it, what, a month, maybe 6 weeks now. That tractor, you know, I could highly recommend to anybody as far as its strength, its ruggedness, its durability, and the strength that it has to be able to do certain things. You know, I can already attest to that, it has the power to do what you're seeing me do up here at the cabin. I had another comment here that says, Richard, just hearing about all the projects you either already have going on, plus the ones you have planned, made me have to lay down and take a nap. I tell you what, folks, I'll be 64 years old this October, and I have never felt better in my life. I think the fact that I just keep going and refuse to give up is what helps me to maintain good health. You know, after leaving EMS, I lost 40 pounds. No, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just that I don't eat fast food anymore. I eat a whole lot more wholesome now. I may not eat as many calories as I burn, but I feel good. You know, my body is down to its normal weight now, because this is primarily what I looked like before I started EMS. And you could tell in the earlier videos that all the weight that I had gained. And I'll tell you, it was hard to do a lot of things. When I first started up here, I couldn't walk up and down the hill without being out of breath. I couldn't do certain things without feeling fatigued, you know. But now it takes a long time during the day as I'm working for me to start to feel fatigued. I can walk up and down the hills now without being out of breath because I'm not carrying all that extra weight. So like I said, I feel better now than I ever have. And well, I say ever have, in the past 10 years. I feel better. I've got more strength. I can bend over. I can do things that I couldn't do just a year ago. So I think that hard work, motivation, discipline comes into play there, because sometimes I get up and I really don't feel like, you know, maybe doing what I had planned that day, but I force myself to go out there and do it. And of course, once I get started, I'm good to go. Discipline, motivation, having some sort of plan or goal, I think serves to help keep you young. And, you know, like I said, because I've had many comments along that, you know, you've lost a lot of weight and so on and so forth. Well, yes, I have. And thank God that I have, because, like I said, I feel so much better now than I did just a year ago, or probably in the last 10 years. Because, you know, before that, when I was working, I would go straight to school. Was in school for 8 years. So yeah, I feel really good. Some of these comments just crack me up. Here's one that says, "I like your hat." Well, yeah, I like it too. It's got lots of holes in it, and one size fits all, and it just kind of helps to keep the sunlight out of my eyes, along with the sunshades that I wear when I'm out here working. But then he goes on to say, he says, "We need to have a beard growing contest." I honestly don't want any more than this. I don't want, you know, like a full beard hanging there, but this is just part of my mountain man look. And the fact that I guess I get up every day, and instead of shaving, I just get out here and I get busy. So it did grow out. Now, I haven't ever had one like this before. So we'll see if I keep it until winter. We'll see, you know, if it does anything about helping to clothe my face during the winter time. But anyway, you go ahead, you grow that beard, and you can send me some pics. We also had a lot of comments about the hand tools, whether or not they could actually part with them. This one guy was talking about a man and his tools, because you think to yourself, you know, someday I may need that. But you know, a lot of people had got away from the use of hand tools when they got power tools, and then the battery operated tools actually began to become more popular as technology advanced and the torque and the battery capacity got better. But I'll tell you what, there's just nothing like having an old school hand tool. Not only is it more fun to work with, I think because it gives you satisfaction that you are actually using something, doing it with your own power, and being able. Now I'll tell you what, when those tools are in good working condition, like those hand saws, they cut almost as fast as a good jigsaw or a good circle saw. So you got to keep the tools in proper working order. Like the hand augers and stuff like that, you know, if they're in good working order, you can drill a hole in a piece of wood almost in no time. And like I said, there's a lot of satisfaction in knowing that you actually did that under your own power, and you know, they don't cost that much. Because, you know, when I go to the antique shop, you know, I'm primarily looking for something that isn't too bad broken and could be put back into working order. Most of those hand saws, I only paid like $7 for them, but you know, they were still had an edge to them. I may have refinished the handle or maybe knocked some of the rust off the blade, but I mean, straight from the antique shop, they were ready to go. Some of the tools that I had purchased are going to require a little bit of work in order to get them back into working order, but you know, that's the key. Is to be able to find tools like that that don't cost much, that you can use. So in the event that, you know, some sort of event that came along where you didn't have power, or you couldn't afford to buy tools like that, you could actually go get these tools and still accomplish the same objective, and that is to have a project that you can go out there and you have the manual tools in order to be able to do it, and you didn't spend a whole lot of money. So that is one reason that I invest in those tools. And the other thing, it makes the cabin look like Cracker Barrel. Like my son says, "Dad, that place is starting to look more and more like Cracker Barrel." Well, what's wrong with Cracker Barrel? If you're not from this area and you don't know what Cracker Barrel is, it's basically a restaurant that people can go and eat, like basically home cooked meals, and it's really good. And when you walk in, not only is the outside covered with antiques, but when you're sitting inside, you just got antiques hanging from the ceiling, down on the walls and stuff from days gone by. And it's really nice just to sit there and reminisce and look around, because a lot of that stuff, I'm very familiar with from being a kid. And some of the stuff I've never even seen before. It may come from a different part of the country, like way up north or something like that, that you may not have seen before, like snowshoes. Everyone knows what snowshoes are, but how many of you have actually ever used them? Tools that you would use for ice fishing. How many of you have ever done that? Only by living in the north would you have done something like that. So some of those things, like I said, I may not have seen too often. Of course, now I have lived in the north, so a lot of that stuff, I was used to. But there's still a lot of things in there that you look at and you think, well, I wonder what they use that for. But it's really cool just to be able to, like I said, go in, sit down, and reminisce of days gone by when things were a lot simpler. Things were built with much higher quality, things that would last a lifetime and more, because they're still going in my lifetime, that things that were made long before I was ever even thought about. So yeah, there's something to be said about those old school hand tools and the fact that they were built well and they're still going. So guys, we really want to thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us up here to hear about the behind the scenes going on up here at the cabin, all of the plans that we've got. It seems like everything that we had planned for this year just got totally changed, but that's okay. We still made a lot of headway and things that needed to be done before other things that we had planned. But we're still moving forward, okay? So we hope that each and every one of you have a fantastic day. You all take care, and we look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.